bitter criticism on the bus. Bitter criticism on the bus, look. Chilean bus. We are going to read something from June 3rd. Just keep reading from last time. Here we have the Pepe Escobar news. Well, I'm gonna jump to the 4 article from my file. There's a lot of things happening. The last news I read was the SWIFT news, the economic system. Then I'm gonna read a previous one from the same topic from Russia Today. Look. Can you see me over there? Anyway, home business news, June 1st, 3 days ago, 2024. West eyeing Russian SWIFT as sanctions target, Bloomberg. New restrictions could be applied to financial institutions that use the Bank of Russia's financial messaging system. G7 and EU are working on ways to sanction banks that allegedly help Russia circumvent the current restrictions, Bloomberg reported on Friday. Citing sources close to the discussions, according to the report, the measures will target third countries' financial institutions that use the Bank of Russia's interbank messaging system, the SPFC. The system functions similarly to the Belgium-based SWIFT, ensuring the secure transfer of financial messages between banks both inside and outside the country. It replaced SWIFT in Russia when the country's key banks were disconnected from the system in light of Ukraine-related sanctions in 2022. Many of Russia's trading partners subsequently joined the SPFC in order to continue carrying out transactions with the country and as part of the broader drive to reduce exposure to the Western financial system. As of January, over 550 banks and companies from 20 countries were connected to the SPFC, according to the Bank of Russia. According to Bloomberg sources, by targeting lenders that use the SPFC and consequently facilitate transactions with Russia, Western states want to stop Moscow from being able to obtain technologies used in weapons production. For instance, Washington and its NATO allies have repeatedly accused China of fueling Russia's military effort by supporting its weapons manufacturing through the sale of dual-use goods. In an interview with Bloomberg earlier this week, U.S. Deputy Treasury Secretary Wally Adeyemo reaffirmed this stance, warning that Washington and allies are open to sanctioning any entity helping Russia obtain components that can be used for weapons production. Both China and Russia have repeatedly denied Western allegations. The discussions regarding SPFC come ahead of the G7 summit in Italy, scheduled in mid-June, where the group reportedly plans to come up with a new package of measures aimed at better enforcing existing sanctions on Russia. The EU could reportedly agree on its own package of restrictions earlier. However, sources said some member states have been reluctant to support a ban on SPFC due to concerns that legitimate transactions could be affected, as well as the bloc's own financial relations with the countries whose banks will be targeted. Washington and its allies are currently mulling ways to use the roughly $300 billion in Russian central bank assets that were frozen as part of sanctions, while Washington has been eager to seize the funds outright. Other G7 members have been focused on ways to tap the profits generated by them. However, no consensus on the matter has been reached, with Italian economy minister Giancarlo Giorgetti stating last week that it still presents significant technical and legal problems. So yeah, I'm not an expert on economy, but I'm trying. I'm trying reading some articles from Russia Today, like this one. No, this is not from economy, but so yeah, I guess this will be very, very hard for the SPFC to take the place of SWIFT in more countries, because the SWIFT, I guess, is the whole imperialism priority. You know, economy is the priority of imperialism. Anyway, June 3rd, 2024, Home World News. Ukraine won't trigger World War III, UK military chief. Admiral Sir Tony Radakin appears confident on NATO's strength. The chief of Britain's defense staff, Admiral Tony Radakin, on the photograph. Look, he is, I don't know, he's fierce. Mounting tensions between Russia and West over Ukraine do not mean that World War III is imminent, according to Admiral Tony Radakin, the Chief of Defense Staff of the United Kingdom. Sky News recorded an interview with Radakin on the 80th anniversary of the 1944 Allied landings in Normandy. In Normandy. It was pre-recorded and aired on Monday, so the admiral had not been aware of the US and other NATO member countries approving the use by Kiev of their detonated weapons to strike deep inside Russia. Russian President Vladimir Putin does not want a war with NATO. Putin does not want a nuclear war, and we have enormous overmatch because of the strength of NATO, Radakin told Sky. He downplayed a thought on the potential for an imminent global conflict. However, quote, we got to be very careful that we distinguish between the really severe and deep threats in the late 1930s and then how we entered into a world war, and not use loose language that we are somehow on the cusp of a world war now. Radakin advised, adding that the world's got a bit more dangerous, but we should be reassured by all that we've got it in place. Constant escalation by NATO, however, could lead to serious consequences, President Putin said last week, suggesting that the US-led bloc might be pushing for a global conflict. On Monday, the Deputy Foreign Minister of Russia, Sergei Ryabkov, outright warned the US against miscalculations that can lead to fatal consequences. For some unclear reason, they underestimate how serious a response they could face. Ryabkov told reporters in Moscow, urging US policymakers to spend more time considering Putin's words instead of wasting it on computer games. Radakin assumed the role of Chief of Defence Staff to the professional head of the UK's armed forces in November 2021, replacing General Sir Nick Carter. Look, Nick Carter. Do you know where Nick Carter from the Backstreet Boy is? He's right here, look. Do you saw Nick Carter? Replacing General Sir Nick Carter after he had voiced concerns about a possible conflict with Russia. According to British and Ukrainian media, he has been helping Kiev make plans to attacking Russian targets in the Black Sea. In his Sky News interview, Radakin admitted that Russia is making tactical advances on land, but claimed that Moscow intended for the conflict to be over in 3 days. What? The conflict to be over in 3 days? I didn't. Maybe 3 years. Yeah. Look, he's wrong. This is wrong. Conflict to be over in 3 years, not days. Anyway, asked whether Ukraine could endure and succeed, he said he was hugely confident of it. It's a war of economies, it's a war of logistics, it's a war of industrial production, it's a war of political will, Radakin told the UK outlet. Yeah, who knows what's going to happen, you know? I'm not sure, but I'm glad I'm not in the global north now. Because, you know, if Russia and China wins, maybe I'm not I guess not. They are always saying it's not true, but they maybe will attack, invade and eliminate the NATO itself, you know, United States, West Europe. So who knows? Home Russia and former Soviet Union, June 3rd, 2024. Putin congratulates Jews. The Russian president called Salvation Day, which celebrates the defeat of Nazi Germany, one of the most important dates in Jewish history. We have a photograph from Russian President Vladimir Putin. Russian President Vladimir Putin has wished Russian Jews as they celebrate the Day of Salvation and Liberation, a holiday dedicated to the defeat of Nazi Germany in World War II, while the unconditional surrender of Nazi Germany, or Victory Day, is recognized on May 8 in Western countries and May 9 in Russia and parts of the former Soviet Union and the former Yugoslavia. In 1945, that day fell on the 26th day of the Jewish month of Iyar. This year that day coincides with June 3rd. In a statement published on the Kremlin's official website, Putin wrote 26 Iyar. I don't know which. I don't know this word. 26 Iyar. 26 Iyar is one of the most important significant dates in the centuries old history of Jewish people, which connects eras and generations and personifies the unfolding memory of the great victory and the immortal feat of those who crushed Nazism and saved the Jewish and other peoples from and other peoples from annihilation. Quote, this attribute to deep, sincere respect for people who, in the most difficult trials, showed steadfastness and courage and did not submit to a cruel and merciless enemy, Putin wrote. The president went on to describe the holiday as a celebration that reaches the historical, religious, and cultural traditions of Russian Jews, promotes high spiritual, moral, patriotic ideals and values in society, especially among young people, and serves to consolidate the efforts in opposing radical nationalism, xenophobia, and anti-Semitism. I wish you success in implementing your plans and all the best. Happy holiday. Putin's message conclude. Well, of course, this is, well, I guess this is not a supporting for Palestine, but I am not sure why Putin will be called anti-Semitic, or the SMO, the Special Military Operation, as anti-Semite. But I guess he is making politics against this accusation. So this is the accusator himself. June 3rd, 2024, Home World News. Israel won't give up on absolute victory, Netanyahu. The country is only considering a temporary truce with Hamas to secure the release of hostages, the Prime Minister insists. Israel is ready to consider a temporary ceasefire with militants in Gaza for the sole purpose of freeing hostages, but will not stop the war against Hamas, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Monday. Ending the hostilities without crushing the Palestinian armed group will constitute surrender and only play into the hands of enemies, Netanyahu said during a meeting on his security cabinet. The Prime Minister also criticized the three-point peace plan floated by Washington last week, saying he had only agreed to discuss the matter rather than comply with it. U.S. President Joe Biden, quote, U.S. President Joe Biden didn't mention an important detail, that is the second stage. Israel didn't agree to end the war, but only to discuss its end. What does it mean to discuss? We discuss only on our terms, Netanyahu stated. The three-point peace plan was unveiled by Biden on Friday. In its first phase, the scheme envisioned an immediate, full and complete ceasefire lasting for 6 weeks, with the second stipulating the release of both Israeli hostages and Palestinian prisoners, withdrawal of IDF personnel from the enclave. The final stage envisions a major reconstruction of Gaza with the participation of the international community in a way that will not allow Hamas to rearm. I'm not sure, but there's a lot of I'm not sure if there's a lot of people in the left wing in Brazil, for example, but some people say, like Rui Costa Pimenta from PCO, that Hamas is gonna win, but I'm not sure, you know. I guess Hamas is just completely defeated and de-armed. Who knows? I'm not sure about. And Palestinians are dying like fleas. Over the weekend, Ophir Falk, chief foreign policy advisor to Netanyahu, said Israel had accepted the framework. The official suggested the plan was not exactly a good deal, and there were still a lot of details to be worked out before Netanyahu clarified that such a truce will only be temporary. I will not be ready to stop the war, despite what President Biden said. It has not been agreed how many hostages will be released in the first phase. We can stop the fighting for 42 days in order to return the hostages. We cannot stop the war. The Iranian and all our enemies are looking at us and want to see if we surrender, the Israeli Prime Minister stated. Well, you know, right here in Chile, this is June 4th, I guess. Yeah. And we have this politician, this Palestinian with I don't know how to say, this Daniel Jadwe is in prison. He has Palestinian ancestry. I guess the media, I guess people supporting Palestine, he's supporting Palestine, is making a campaign to support Palestine, and people forgot about him, you know. He got in prison because of nothing, because of lawfare, and everybody's unsatisfied with the government right here, and nobody give attention to him, to Daniel Jadwe. I guess because of the Palestinian defeat, you know. I guess people is pragmatic, you know. The masses are pragmatic. If you have a country like what? If you have a country like Palestine or Israel, people will not support the defeated country, you know. People are cowards. Anyway, and people forgot about who is fighting to resist. That's my opinion. I guess I'm gonna jump to the next one because I have a lot of news like this one. June 3rd. US seizes Scott Ritter's passport. This news is huge. The Russia Today contributor was stopped from visiting Russia. The US State Department has seized the passport of the former Marine and UN weapons inspector Scott Ritter. He told Russia Today on Monday. Ritter was on his way to Russia for the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum (SPIEF) when he was pulled off the place and has his documents confiscated. Quote, I was boarding the flight. 3 police officers pulled me aside. They took my passport. When asked why, they say orders of the State Department. They had no further information for me. Ritter told Russia Today. They pulled my bags off the plane, then escorted me out of the airport. They kept my passport. Ritter is a former U.S. Marine Corps intelligence officer who later served as the U.S. and UN weapons inspector in Iraq. He is also a Russia Today contributor reading about international security, military affairs, Russia and the Middle East, as well as arms control and non-proliferation. He most recently visited Russia in January, spending time in Chechnya, Moscow and St. Petersburg, among other places. The most recent post on Ritter's Telegram channel. I'm gonna check this out. There's a link to the Scott Ritter's channel. Put the Cloney Foundation for Justice on notice for its alleged crusade against Russian propagandists. Quote, "Here I am in your face. I'm telling the truth about Russia makes propagandists in your book. Then accept the title," he wrote. "Bring it on. I will school you on the First Amendment." Quote, "You have zero concept of what free speech is. Try and arrest me and you will find out. In spades, it's war," he added. But, well, this article didn't say what happened, if he is in the United States or he is in Russia. If he is in prison, didn't say. June 3rd, again, Russia Today. Germany begins to militarize. When we have seen this before, a recent upsurge in fighting talk could mark a turning point in the history of the nation, and not a good one. I guess I'm not gonna read everything. By Tariq Siri Lamar, a historian from Germany working at Kos University, Istanbul, on Russia, Ukraine and Eastern Europe, the history of World War II, the cultural Cold War, and the politics of memory. We have a photograph of the honorary company of the German Armed Forces marched during the ceremonial pledge. About 400 recruits on the parade ground of the Federal Ministry of Defense. Recent German history is marked by two dates, 1980 and 1945. That stands for extraordinary catastrophic failures of, among other things, militarism. Both countries have militaries, many have substantial ones. But militarism is of course something else. In essence, the term stands for a syndrome, a type of politics and culture, an integrated Seiges package, if you wish, that harmfully exaggerate the public importance, social prestige, and political power of a country's military. Both pre-World War and pre-World War II, pre-World War I and pre-World War II, Germany were clear cases of this political pathology, and both paid dearly for it, with massive defeats in war started first with significant input from others, then entirely on its own by Berlin. History can be a harsh teacher, and in this case, the lessons that Germany brought on itself were not only painful, but they also got successively worse. 1918 was a severe setback that led to regime change, deep economic crisis, and lasting instability. 1945 was a total defeat that came with national partition and a robust geopolitical downgrading that has to last forever, or so it seemed. When the two Germanys that emerged after 1945 united in 1990, everyone with any sense of history knew that things would change again. It is true that in purely constitutional terms, the new Germany is merely a bigger version of the former West Germany. The former East Germany was simply absorbed. Anyway, I'm gonna jump to the next one because this article is huge, and I'm just in the middle of the dossier. Mexico elects the first woman president June 3rd. Home World News. Claudia Sheinbaum of the ruling Morena party is projected to have won between 58.3% and 60.7% of the vote, according to officials. That's it. I'm not gonna read it because everybody knows that. At least I know everything about that because that was very covered right here in Chile on the media. June 3rd, Home World News. Sex with minors is part of gypsy culture, Spanish court rules. The court has acquitted a 20-year-old man charged with alleged continuous sexual abuse of a 12-year-old girl. that's I guess that's too much. That's too, yeah, in my opinion, 12 years old is too young. Anyway, I'm not gonna read that. Russia Today, June 3rd, Home Business News. Sanctioning Russian nuclear sector will hurt EU. AIEI. Some bloc members are up to 40% dependent on fuel from Russia. Rafael Grossi has warned. We have a photograph from the AIEI Director General Rafael Grossi. I guess I've read something from this guy. Imposing sanctions on the Russian nuclear industry will only hurt the European Union. The head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi has warned. In an interview with the Austrian newspaper The Standard, published on Monday, Grossi highlighted the EU's significant reliance on Russian uranium and nuclear fuel, noting that some countries in the bloc are up to 40% dependent on its supplies. He warned that unlike with coal and gas deliveries, there is no quick way to shift away from Russian nuclear fuel, and that severing ties too soon will harm global energy markets. They Western countries, this is quote, they Western countries are taking measures to end this dependence, but that cannot be done overnight, Grossi noted. The Europeans are reacting with a dose of realism, knowing that their economies cannot function without nuclear energy. His remarks come as the EU aims to adopt a 14th package of sanctions against Moscow before July. The bloc is considering imposing tariffs up to 42 billion euros, which is $46 billion worth of imports from Russia, including nuclear fuel. You know, as Pepe Escobar says many times on his columns, Russia is doing just fine, is making more money even. So I guess how many sanctions? 14 packages are being launched. Earlier this year, the International Energy Agency, IEA, predicted global nuclear power generation will reach an all-time high in 2025. as more and more countries turn to the technology as part of plans to reduce emissions. The UK, Sweden, and Switzerland are among the countries on track to ramp up domestic nuclear power generation by exceeding the opening lives of existing plants and building new ones in a bid to boost energy security as electricity demand soars. The EU has not sanctioned the Russian nuclear sector, including energy giant Rosatom, despite repeated requests from Ukraine and bloc members Lithuania and Poland, which are among Moscow's most vocal critics. The move has been blocked by some EU states, including Hungary, that rely on Russian nuclear energy. Russian nuclear fuel and technology Russian nuclear fuel and technology sales soared in 2020 as imports by EU countries climbed to their highest level in 3 years. NATO members, including Bulgaria and the Czech Republic, Hungary, and Slovakia, all continue to buy reactor fuel from the sanctioned country, according to Rosatom. As of 2022, Russia was the largest enriched uranium exporter of the global market, accounting for roughly 35% of sales worldwide, with an estimated export value of $2 billion. And that was everything from Russia today. The country canceled on YouTube. Yeah. And now we have China, Cgtn. China slams Philippines, hyping up maritime situation. June 3rd, China, Cgtn. The Chinese Foreign Ministry said on Monday that Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. recent remarks aimed to amplify the Philippines' wrongful position on issues concerning the South China Sea and deliberately distort the hype up the maritime situation. Marcos had claimed that both the United Nations Convention and on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, UNCLOS, and the 2016 arbitral award on the South China Sea affirmed his country's legal right, and that their policy is in the South China Sea was built upon these two touchstones. In response, China slammed the arbitral award as illegal, null and void. Without the Chinese government's prior consent, the Philippines unilaterally initiated an international arbitration, which violated the international law, including UNCLOS and the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea, DOC. The ministry said the arbitral tribunal in the South China Sea arbitration handled the case ultra vires and made an illegitimate ruling. The rendered award is illegal, null and void. China neither accepts nor participates in that arbitration. Neither accepts nor recognizes the award and will never accept any claim or action arising from the award, the ministry said. The US has played an extremely ignoble role by supporting and assisting the Philippines in infringing on China's sovereignty, and by exploiting the South China Sea issue to drive a wedge between China and other regional countries, it said. China will continue to firmly safeguard its territorial sovereignty and maritime rights and interests. while committing to resolving sea-related conflicts and differences through negotiations and consultation with the countries directly concerned on the basis of respect for historical facts, the ministry said. China is ready to continue to work with ASEAN countries, including the Philippines, to manage maritime differences, deepen maritime cooperation and promote peace in the South China Sea, it said. We urge the Philippines to honor its commitments, adhere to the limits of its territory established by the international treaties, fully and effectively implement the DOC, stop maritime infringement activities and provocations at once, and return to the right track of handling maritime disputes and differences properly through dialogue and consultation as soon as possible, it added. And we also have in Cgtn the Claudia Sheinbaum victory, declares victory in Mexico's presidential election. I'm not gonna read it because everybody knows. Foreign scientists thank China for rolling Chang'e 6 lunar mission. I'm not gonna read this neither because it's kind of too specific. It's from astronomy. Look. So a little bit of astronomy in China. China is doing well in astronomy too. What else? The future of ECFA rests with the DPP authorities' policies. But you know, I'm going to go away from the bus now. Trump found guilty, but America's problems won't go away. I'm not sure if this is the right site for the recordings because I was turning the cell phone upside down so many times. This Huawei cell phone, when you turn upside down a Huawei cell phone, the cell phone just changed the layout of the camera, but it doesn't change the. I guess that's a technological mistake because you want to see what's going on, what's really going on with your image. I was with my headphone turned on, so I lost a lot of battery. Looks like today is there's no World War III. Nobody knows when it's gonna start. Maybe never. Nobody knows. So I guess even if even with World War III, even if World War III starts, nothing is going to happen right here in Chile. Nobody cares. We just have enough, you know. Too much poverty, I guess. It's just too much. And so it's the same of Brazil, I guess. Brazil has just too much violence all day long. As you can see, it's all fine, all right. And what? Yeah, Philippines, definitely. But I guess the Philippines conflict is not so bad as Ukraine, but this point. I guess it will never be so bad because they have ASEAN, I guess. Something like that. But the Philippines, definitely, they are slaves, isn't it? Philippines is just like Chile. Chile is like Philippines. Right here in Chile we have a lot of it's time for release Tommy now. Tommy right now is inside his room. He's sad, and that's it. Poor Tommy. Well, what else? I didn't go to church. I guess I was to church, but it was a long time ago. It was for a baptism. I remember the church issue because there's a Jesus Christ church with a Catholic church with a lot of advertisement on social media. Last time I recorded, and you know, this advertisement they have been more and more sexy. They show you on these advertisements blonde sexy girls and blonde sexy young women, and I'm not sure if what they want me to go there. When I saw these advertisements from Jesus Christ Church, from Mormon Church, I take a screenshot to show, just to remember how beautiful they are.